Klara, the main character of the movie, is introduced at the beginning of the film. She regains consciousness and finds herself in an unfamiliar place, facing a message written on the wall. It appears to be a warning or a threat from a killer, indicating which one of them she or her husband would be killed. Klara knows that it is a serial killer as famous nowadays as a calendar killer. She panics and also hears the killer's voice from behind, but he leaves without harming her. Cuts. And we are shown a man named Jules who works from home for a call center. The girls who feel any threat used to call this call center, like Jules, get a call, and the girl tells him that a lot of boys are chasing her. Jules advises her to stand under the streetlight from where people can easily see her. If there is any car standing near, press its horn, and the girl does the same as Jules said. As the car horn was pressed, the boys ran from there because they knew the residents would come out now. Likewise, the girl escaped. As the call cuts, Jules turns on the TV on which the news of Calendar's killer was broadcast. He does not pay much attention to it because he receives another call, and it is Klara, whom we saw at the beginning. Jules asks Klara, "How may I help you?" Klara replies, "You can't help me because I want to die. Calendar killer is also behind me. He also threatened to kill me or my husband while taking me to a strange place after kidnapping me from my room. But he does not believe in this." During the call, Jules also checks on his daughter and house. The scene cuts from here and we see an old stranger having a picture of the threats of Calendar killer, and it also seems that maybe he is the killer. Well, now Klara is shown walking on the road at this time. Klara was in a weird condition as she escaped from a party. She says while talking to Jules, "I am fed up with this life. I want to die." Jules panics and asks, "Where are you at this time?" She says, "I escaped from my husband." Jules couldn't understand her, and then Klara told him that today was our wedding anniversary. He took me to a huge restaurant for dinner. I felt both happy and scared because he has a furious temper. He used to beat me at any time, and if he would beat me in front of everyone, I would get embarrassed. There I met my lawyer friend, seeing whom his mood changes, but surprisingly he didn't react. But after dinner, he took me to a secret floor through the lift. The party of elites was going on, and they were very close to each other. Reaching here, my husband offered me a drink, and having it, my body became numb, I became paralyzed, and my husband made fun of my condition along with his friends. Then he got me tied to a table forcefully, and everyone abused me. My husband was watching all this silently because he got money in return. Klara tells him as I become my body becomes able to walk. I escaped from there, hearing this from her. Jules becomes mad. He knew that a girl could kill herself in this situation. He made Klara understand not to do anything that could harm herself. Klara was not going to listen to him. She put a pipe on the car silencer and kept that pipe in the car. Then she turns the car engine on. She knows that in a while, the car will be full of smoke and she will die of suffocation. During this, Jules was on call and making her understand, saying, "Don't do this, Klara. Come out of the car," but she doesn't care. Before Klara dies, she thinks of her daughter, whom she can't let stay with her beast-like husband. She immediately comes out of the car and says to Jules, "I didn't stop all this on your request, but I thought of my daughter." Here we see that Jules gets a call from his dad. He was asking where he is. He says, "I'm working at home." He says, "I need your help." His dad agrees to help him. Jules wants to see Klara's condition. He says to his dad, "I'm sending you an address, so go and check on that girl if she is safe or not." Jules's dad agrees and starts his journey to Klara's house. It is shown that Jules's father is the same man with whom we saw the calendar killer threats picture. Klara also comes home and calls Jules. Jules asks her why she bears so much cruelty. Klara tells him, "Just because we are not financially independent, our men fulfill our finances, and they feel that they can do anything in return. We have to bear all this because we have to live with our kids. If we got separated, they can bring up our kids as their financial condition is good. We couldn't even file a case on them." Jules also shares his story that his wife with her mental disorder cut her hand, but when she was about to die, she came to her senses and tried to save herself. But the washroom door was locked. At that time, Jules was at the office, and when he reached home, his wife died. He was sad that day, but it was his children's fate that troubled him more than his wife's death because now they were alone. Jules tells her that after his wife's death, he is doing work from home and takes care of his kids at home too. While talking to Klara, he was at kitchen and notices a knife is missing from his shelf. He feels like someone has entered his house. He holds Klara and goes to check his house. On the other side, strange things were happening at Klara's house. her TV turned on itself. She turned it off, being scared. When she comes to the window, she again sees the calendar killer's threat written on it. She takes its picture and sends it to Jules. Jules, who also feels someone's presence at his home, puts a lot of glass pieces at his main door, so that if someone comes inside, it will harm him or he can get informed from its voice about someone's entrance. Here we see Jules's dad also reaches Klara's house and she feels that he is the killer. She hides, being scared. When Jules's dad moves inside the house, he finds none. So he calls Jules and tells him that the girl isn't at home and everything is fine. Saying this, he leaves, but Klara also runs toward the forest as she gets a chance. Jules was also talking to Klara continuously, but when she ran into the forest, all the signals dropped and their call disconnected. Here, Klara's foot slips while running and she rolls and falls on the road. Luckily, a car was passing by from there. The car driver helped her and brought her into the car while lifting her. Klara gets scared to see his getup as he was dressed as Santa Claus, but he assures Klara that he will not harm her. He just saw her and helped her. He is dressed as a Santa Claus as he works to make kids happy at the parties. Hearing this, Klara is satisfied and sits in his car. As they cross the forest, the signals are restored, so she calls Jules. She asks this man to drop her to the city. She also tells Jules that she found a good human who will drop her to the city. Hearing this, Jules becomes furious that how foolish is this girl? How could she believe a stranger? He tries to make her understand that trusting anyone in this situation is dangerous, but Klara reassures him, saying he is safe. Now Klara asks for a cigarette from this boy. He says you will get everything from the back seat. As Klara moves back, she also finds a teaser gun. Seeing it, she gets scared, but the man says, "Don't be scared. This is for my safety." Klara sighed and they continued their journey. Klara was still talking to Jules. She tells him that the calendar killer is behind her, but her husband doesn't believe her. She just said this. Meanwhile, Jules feels someone's presence in his house. He immediately starts checking his house. The man suddenly stops the car because Klara's husband came in front of the car. He takes out the man with Klara from the car and starts beating him. Seeing this, Klara becomes enraged and tells him that he is innocent and is just helping her. Listening to her thankfully, husband leaves him. Klara helps him and makes him sit on the driving seat somehow. And then she asks for his teaser gun. This man understands that her husband is an evil person, so without asking anything, he gives his teaser gun to Klara so that she could escape from her husband. Her husband makes her sit in his car. Her husband asks why she left the party so soon. Hearing this, Klara was surprised at his selfishness, and she says, "You should be ashamed. I am your wife, your daughter's mom. Was that cheap place capable of me?" She also shows him the threat of the calendar killer that was written on their window. Klara's husband feels that Klara has written it herself, and she is doing all this drama. Klara was trying to call her daughter's babysitter, but strangely, he wasn't picking up the call. Don't know what was the environment at home. Being furious, Klara asks her husband to leave her. Her husband slaps her to hear this. He holds her hairs and says, "You will be responsible for your condition if you will leave me." We see at Jules's home that he still feels someone's presence while investigating. When he again comes to the main door, the trap he set for usurpation pricks his foot well. He moves ahead and goes to his daughter's room where she was sleeping peacefully. He finds the knife from her cupboard that was missing from his kitchen. That means he came here, picked up the knife from the kitchen, and then hid in the closet. Then as found that Jules discovered his presence, he left the knife and escaped from there. Jules now carefully goes to check the other room, and as he goes there, a man attacks him. Jules was ready for all this. He escaped from his attack and attacked his leg with the knife he was holding. His leg starts bleeding. Now that man moves Jules away from him and comes to the window. He stands outside the windows through the balcony. He wants to escape, but he knows that if he leaves from here, a slight mistake can even take his life. Jules moves his hand ahead, but this man doesn't take his help and jumps from there. As he jumps, the house front is shown, and the twist of the story reveals that it was Klara and Martin's house, not Jules's, in which he was at this time. If this house was of Klara, then the daughter sleeping in the house was also Klara's. The man whom we were considering usurpation was the babysitter of Klara's daughter, who discovers Jules's presence and runs to escape, but loses his life. Here we see when Klara and Martin reach their house parking, Klara attacks Martin with the teaser gun. Without knowing that the killer has already come inside her house, hurriedly opens the door and moves inside. She sees the glass on the main entrance, which Jules placed as a trap. so that when anyone come inside, would get stuck in this glass. As she gets inside, the lights were on and there was a laptop too. It was not hers, and she couldn't understand what is happening. She immediately ran to her daughter's room and there was Jules inside. He was near her. Daughter, and hearing his voice, Klara understood that he is Jules to whom she was talking. Klara wasn't fooled that she couldn't understand that Jules was the killer. She gets scared and says, "Don't harm my daughter, please." Jules says, "Don't worry. I will not harm her. I have already set a trap before your arrival. I didn't come here to kill you, but come here to help you so that you can kill your husband and free yourself." It is shown that Martin comes to his senses after the teaser gun attack. He breaks the car. Lock with the thing near him and comes out while unlocking the car. As he moves inside, he sees Jules. He was about to attack him, but before this, Jules attacks him. The scene cuts, and we are shown Jules's dad again, wandering near this house, and when he sees the dead body of the babysitter of Klara's daughter, he understands that his son must be here, and he is killing everyone here. He found this when he went to his son. He found so many pictures of the calendar killer, the same threat pictures that are shown in the news too. The presence of the pictures is proof that his son is a serial killer. The scene cuts and we are shown Jules, Martin, and Klara. Jules ties them both and was making Klara understand, "Why are you panic? I am helping you, just kill him and make your life easy." Here Jules tells her the reason behind his serial killings. He was also an evil husband like Martin. He used to oppress his wife. Then one day his wife ended herself being fed up with his oppression. That day he realized how much he teased her or gave her pain that she died. He feels every woman's sorrow. Now he decided, while changing himself, that he will kill all the men out there who oppress their wives. He now says to Klara, "Today you have this chance. Grab this knife and kill him." Klara loves her husband so much that she wouldn't think of killing him. She grabs the knife when Jules forces her, but when she gets close to her husband, she attacks Jules's leg from behind instead of her husband. Jules shouts, and now he captures Klara. Before he can kill Klara, a bullet's voice is heard. It is shown that Jules dies. The one who shot was Jules's dad, who came here to save them. Before Klara and Martin could consider him the killer, he tells them that when he went to meet Jules after so many days, he saw the pictures of calendar killer threats, and when he asked him where he was, he lied that he was working at home. He understood that Jules was after his other prey, and he finally reached here while tracing him. He didn't let 2 more murders happen. They finally escape, and Klara first hugs her daughter. The scene cuts, and the scene after a few days is shown. We come to know that Martin is at a good post. He is a politician, and everyone votes for him, considering him nice. Klara plays an audio. When he was in a press conference, in this audio, it was clear that Martin used to beat and abuse his wife. Seeing this, his real face is revealed, and his career is destroyed within a day. Finally, Klara also took her revenge on him courageously. Klara's lawyer friend was now handling her case, in which she demands a divorce and seeks legal assistance for all her needs. Klara wins the case and finally frees herself from her toxic husband. At the end of the movie, it is shown that Klara lives a happy life with her daughter,